no Freudian, but we go back and then usually, yeah, we can arrive at a common destination. And so one of the things I always get them to do is a kind of their own rite of passage, which is like a severing of ties with who they were to embrace like who they can become, right? And I think like on a deep psychological level, there needs to be that sort of that death of the ego.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of The Way of El Marco, episode number 16. And today we have a very special guest from that side of the ocean, or that side, depending on how you're viewing this thing. It's another guest for the British invasion. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Paddy Wolfgang Haynes.
Woo!
I know, roaring audience, man. I got a bunch of chicks going like, "Oh my God, it's Paddy!" I'm like, "Please." All right, man. Good to see you, buddy.
Likewise, my friend.
Yeah, dude. I like your microphone there and your whole setup. It's all
I had to get everything all new set up and just put a bit of swag on the place. But no, it's feeling comfortable here.
That's good. Because the last time I saw you, where we met was at Bill Walsh's objection box. And if I recall, it looked like you were almost like in a very tight space where you were working.
Gosh, you do have a good memory, don't you? So it was actually the same office, but pushed in a corner and a little bit of different kit. Obviously, with time, you've got to upgrade these things. And then someone brought it to my attention that this kind of background was just a lot better for focus. And yeah, no, it's come along. I'm happy with it now.
Fucking A. Yeah, looks great. Awesome, man. Awesome. So I just caught you for the show. You just got done with a workout. You were getting ready to do a post-workout nap. And I want to kick it off and talk about training, right? Something that you do, something that I do. And your particular brand of training, you do strongman training.
Yep.
And for people at home who don't know, that is like the coolest version of weightlifting, in my opinion, because it's like, all right.
In my opinion as well.
Yeah. It's pretty much like, okay, lift heavy shit. So you got, can you break down essentially like what is, because you're training for competitions.
Yeah. And
number one, how did you get into it?
You know, that is actually a crazy story. And, so we're going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, right? But obviously, having been in the military and having been in the infantry in particular, I've sort of done a lot of questionable things over the years. I considered myself always quite a capable guy. But it was about 4 years ago. I remember I was at a party and I was really drunk. And I was with some friends and I went to go and book a taxi. And anyway, it was two female friends that I was ushering. And I remember there was these three guys who came down and they said, "No, that's our taxi." And immediately I went to go and like tell them to bugger off. And you know what? They kicked the crap out of me, Marco, bro. They absolutely filled me in. And then I'm there on the ground. My pride is shattered. And I'm like, I'm not this dangerous human being that I thought I once was. And so I thought, what can I do about it? I got to get in the gym, bro. I got to start lifting things. I got to become a weapon once again. Yeah. And anyway, that started that journey. But then I had a buddy who came and he did strongman, and I was impressed. And he's like picking up farmers' carries and sticking up logs above his head, and playing with concrete balls. I was like, what the hell is all this, bro? And he took me down to like the local spit and sawdust gym where like the average guy is 6'5" and 350 pounds. And I'm just like, what is this environment as they're playing death metal? And just sort of immediately between that and the grunting and the swearing and shouting, I just knew I was home. And then, yeah, that is pretty much how it has taken a solid grip on my life since then. And yeah, I'm completely obsessed with it now. And it's given me a lot of confidence, a lot of strength, and, a lot of new goals as well.
That's awesome, man. That's sorry that you got your ass beat, but at the same time,
best thing that ever happened to me.
Exactly, dude. Exactly, man. So with strongman, like what are the in a strongman competition? What are the events?
Yeah, so usually you have some sort of overhead medley, right, which would be like a ridiculous oversized dumbbell that you have to single arm press. You usually get the log, which I would say is probably one of the staples. Again, from the floor above your head, a deadlift ladder, in various weights, usually with an axle bar, so thicker than a barbell. So,
Oh
you
yeah,
can't,
yeah, that one that you've been. It's
yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So you use that, so you can't like pull the whip out of that thing either. So it's just solid and it's thicker and it's heavier. And then you do crazy stuff like farmers carries, just frames at your side, and then the Atlas stones, which are the giant concrete balls, put them on platforms, and then yoke carries. And then usually some weird and wonderful thing like a shield carry, just a giant concrete mold of a shield that you just run with, or throwing sandbags. Yeah.
Wait, are you like hugging the shield?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. In fact, I did that today. So it's 120 kilos. So what's that in pounds? Like, I don't know,
240,
yeah,
250,
240.
260, some shit like that. Yeah.
I was doing it
Jesus,
for
dude.
60-meter sprints, right? And I've done
Damn.
3 sets of this, and I'm feeling pretty knackered. It's a hot day. And anyway, on the fourth set, sorry, I went to go and pick it up from like because you have to grab it from the ground, right? So it's like a deep squat position.
Oh shit.
And I went to do that, and as I did, I immediately fell back and I was pinned. I was like a turtle. So it's just on the ground. And my buddy, who's there with the mat, who's supposed to be helping me, he's just pissing himself laughing at me. Yeah. I'm just pinned down with this giant 120 kilo shield just on my chest. Like, cheers, mate.
So in other words, it sounds like it's a dangerous sport.
I think the statistic, it's got the highest injury rate out of all the strength sports. Yeah.
Oh no shit.
Yeah. It's not as graceful as Olympic lifting. It's not as technical as powerlifting. But it is a great measure of brute force. And it attracts a lot of strange characters. And I think probably the best thing is the camaraderie that surrounds it. Strongmen are some of the biggest gentle giants I've ever met. I love it.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really important point. Strongmen being gentle giants and men of any type of proficiency when it comes to either knowing about violence and how to enact that type of violence, whether it's let's say high level special forces operators, or high level martial artists, extremely strong guys. It's kind of like that thing what Jordan Peterson says, where it's like, you got to be dangerous and you have to know how, because good men need to be dangerous. Otherwise, the opposite
Definitely.
of that, the whole nice guy, I'm just a nice guy, and they don't train and they don't move their bodies, and that just opens the doorway to passive aggressiveness and all this other weird shit that happens when you don't exercise the fucking meat suit.
Meat suit, yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's a great quote for that, which is like, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
100%. Right, 100%. So with that being said, I'm really curious. I want to hear about your time in service. And how old were you when you first joined the military?
17.
So was I.
Yeah, just a baby. Just a baby.
All right, dude. So okay. So number one, why did you do it?
I mean, for me, dude, I was a trouble kid. I was just always getting into trouble. No need for a woe is me story, but I didn't grow up in the best of circumstances surrounding it, and I really just wanted an out from the home I was living in. And I always wanted adventure. I wanted to travel. And I remember going to my local office and having gotten fit enough to pass all my selection. And I originally said, hey, I want to be a dog handler. And they said, oh, dog handler's list is a year. I said, okay, I want to be a medic. And they said, oh, sorry, wedding list for 6 months. I said, what is available? They said infantry.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Get me the fuck out of here.
I would have taken anything. Yeah, honestly. But yeah, so I mean, within a few months, they shipped me up to ITC Catterick, which is like all the way up north in like the rolling hills, in this old little old little, well, there's nothing little about it, but old barracks, but right tucked in the corner of the old little accommodation, which I believe used to be the Scots Guards. And I was surrounded by blokes who were like my age now, who were like rough men, who have been to prison, who have done like drugs, who have done like hard crimes, or have been like boxers, and just like men with hard life experience, and then it's like, hi, I'm Paddy. Oh, sorry, hi, I'm Haynes. I was just like, what the hell have I got myself into? But
That's
what a learning experience, man.
Oh, dude. I was 17 and just wanting to get out where I was living. And it wasn't a bad home life. I was living in the country in a small town called Pengrove. Like I was born in San Francisco and we moved up to this rural place when I was 10. And so then like for the next 7 years, I was like, dude, I want to see more of the world. And so it was between the Navy and the Army, ended up going into the Army. And then I was just like, well, let's, how soon can I go? And like, well, same thing. They're like, well, you want to join the infantry?
Funny that.
It's so funny too. Like the infantry is always like the last thing, right? All these, kids want to show up, like you were saying, yeah, dog handler, medic. And they're like, no, no. But here you go. So you put a post up a while back that I had to chime in on, and there was a phrase that over here we call them drill sergeants or drill instructors during basic training, right? And what do you guys call your drill instructors or drill sergeants?
Usually just call them staff. So if it's
Staff.
just staff. So it's a staff sergeant or a color sergeant. And so just staff is the term for that.
Gotcha. And so then when they called you a lizard, all right.
Yeah.
So what's the American equivalent of lizard?
I mean, I don't know, like maybe like fuckhead or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think it's very typical of British humor as well. Like, you would have done like the gas chambers, right? Whole rip your respirator off, right? Name, rank, number.
Yeah. Yep.
I remember being the last guy.
Yeah, me too.
Oh yeah. And so obviously, they made you run around. You've done all the push-ups in there. Your heart rate's up, and then I am so petrified having seen all these guys like spluttering their guts up before me. And anyway, I barely get like the first number out of my service number. And I remember Corporal just like opened the door, and because I was tiny, and he picked me up by the scruff of my collar and then by my trousers just threw me out. And I hung off the chicken wire fence. I remember my platoon commander, Lieutenant Luff, came up to me and he goes, Haynes, you look like a baby giraffe being born. Like, go again.
Go again.
Yes, sir.
Oh my God, dude. That was that experience, man. So the gas mask they gave me was leaky.
Oh, no.
So they're like, all right, well, you need to wait till one of your buddies gets done and then borrow his mask. And I'm like, all right. So I put on his mask, and so now it's got CS gas all over my skin, and I'm already feeling that shit. And I was like, oh God, this is gonna suck. You're seeing all the dudes run out fucking right, and it's just like, oh God, this is gonna suck. Get in there, start doing the PT and all that shit, name, rank, serial number, all that bullshit. Dude, I thought I was gonna be smart, and I'm like, I'm just gonna hold my breath, then say what I gotta say really fast, and then fucking do that.
It's a tactic. I like it.
Totally. And I fucked up the timing because I was all scared and nervous, and so I lifted and then breathed in and just. Oh God, but man, like air never tasted so much sweeter when you get out of that fucking room.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Dude.
I remember they fed us the line as well leading up to it. There's every intake, there's always someone who's immune to it. So everybody's like, that. Yeah, we're all like, nope, I'm the one that's immune.
Oh God, that's hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
How long did you serve?
Just 4 years, mate.
Did you say 4 years?
Yeah, 4 years is the minimum sign on over here.
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, over here it's 2.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they want 4 years of up, and then they do the whole tempting you with obviously your carder for if you want your stripes or whatever, or if you want a bit of extra money to try and stay in. But I finished up doing ceremonial duties. And yeah, I'd had enough, dude.
What time frame were you in?
So I'm thinking, geez, that would be 2008, I believe, when I joined.
Oh
So yeah,
shit.
to
Okay.
2012.
Oh shit. Okay, gotcha. Did
Yeah.
you stay stateside? Did you go anywhere? Did you get to see any
Dude.
exotic lands?
I tell you what, I had my first tour, which was and my first and only tour, which was a sunshine tour in Cyprus. So I was
Oh,
based over in Larnaca, so well, Decalia, like next to Larnaca, which was basically just an excuse for us and the boys to go to Ayia Napa most weekends, or dress up as women and go on the high street or something like that. So it was basically just a good excuse to sink a lot of Corona and eat a lot of steak.
oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah. Got trapped in Trulos Mountains, which is like where there's a lot of satellite communications up there. Only place where it snows, got snowed in. Remember the chef would only make us beef stroganoff for like a week straight. Got sick of beef stroganoff by the end of that, dude.
That's hilarious, dude. Shit, man. See, I did 3 years,
Yep.
94, 97, and spent the summer in Kuwait of 96, was in Kuwait. And I was a peacetime soldier. And, like you, I was just like, after my 3 years, I was like, all right, I'm good. That's enough. I'm like, I'm gonna go home and figure some other shit out. So you got out, and then what was next for you after you got out? Like, you went back home. Like, where in England are you from?
Oh, I'm from Southampton, which is coincidentally where I live now. I never thought I'd really come back here, but here I am all the same. But no, when I got out, um, yeah, I didn't really have a lot cooking for myself, dude. Let's just say a little bit of this and a little bit of that, just to sort of support myself. And it was funny. I was playing a lot of online games at the time, and for anybody that knows, I was playing Ragnarok Online, a bit like World of Warcraft. Anyway, it was from there I ended up meeting someone who was the co-leader of the guild I created. There is a meaning to this tangent. Anyway, this person I would meet happened to be a beautiful woman in New Zealand who I ended up 6 months later flying over there to go be with her.
Oh,
And then fast forward, that was 5 years of my life.
oh, you lived in New Zealand for 5 years.
Yeah, bro.
Oh shit, dude. Wow, what was that like?
Different. No, I was saying, I mean, like, no, those are basically my adult years, because I got out of the army being 21. By the time I was 21, heading over to New Zealand, and then basically did my growing up over there in a place that I would say is very similar to England's culturally, but about 30 years behind. So you remove a lot of the bubble wrap and the PC and that old school ruggedness and just, should be all right, just get it done, doesn't matter kind of an attitude to rough and ready towards things. That's how that country was for me at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how you mentioned, like, just like 30 years behind. There's always this vibe with certain places, right? Where they're just kind of like not necessarily, up to speed with the times. And that's not, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it can be a good thing because, I think if we tend to kind of like, I like the whole thing with, like, woke culture and trying to
Yeah.
be as PC as possible these days, where it's just like you can't even tell a fucking joke without somebody being offended anymore.
Oh no,
You
yeah.
know,
And I
uh,
think that was the big thing with it going over there. It was evident that nobody really gave a shit about that sort of thing. And just yeah, it was a very like for being a man over there, there's a real and it has its pros and cons, but there's a real like be a man culture
mm,
in New Zealand. Like, yeah, you got to mow your own lawn, you got to support your family, you got to be able to do stuff with your hands, you got to be able to fish, you got to be able to hunt. You must play sports. Otherwise there's something wrong with you as well.
right.
But it was good for me. It was good for me overall, like being in there and being amongst that environment. Because it was like a continuation. I felt like I had purpose again. Because when I
Nice.
left, like a lot of people do, you kind of lose that because you don't have this routine sort of carved out for you anymore. just like, hey, what the fuck do I do with my day to day?
Sure. That's super important, to have that sense of purpose. So I've always been fascinated by British culture, right? And I was born in America, and then
Yeah.
it's the connections between the Americas and the UK, and just the expansion that was done, going into places like New Zealand and in Australia, and thinking about the first, British folks that went to New Zealand, had to duke it out with the Maori there to make space for themselves
Oh,
and
fuck,
live this whole.
they're tough characters, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, right? And so it's this whole. I mean, all right. Well, first off, what are your feelings and thoughts about having a monarchy in your country? Like, are you a Kingsman? Like, if like King Charlie was like, he's like, I need all the men to show up to Buckingham Palace because we're gonna go fight whoever.
I mean, like, honestly,
Yeah.
like speak. I mean, there it's a tough one for me because like I won't attend any like ceremony or parade, but I always do remembrance every year, and that gets my heart.
What's
It's ingrained.
remembrance?
Around November for the souls in the world wars, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, for anything else, like, I'm not anti-imperialist or anti-monarchy, but I couldn't give a stuff, mate. It just seems like a cash grab to me now. It just seems like it's a revenue generating activity. I mean, having been the guy who's marching up and down the square in Buckingham Palace and done the bugling in the Tower of London, I don't know. I guess it's lost its charm for me.
So you had that duty.
Yeah. Among a few other crazy ones, but I don't know. I guess I'm more of a citizen of the world these days.
Mm-hmm.
I would quite happily. I mean, I'm in Southampton because of the people around that I love, but I'd quite happily live in Indonesia, bro. You know.
Yeah. It's pretty funny that like monarchies still exist in 2023. That there are still, I am a royal.
Yeah, it's a bit. Yeah, it's different. It's like, how do I best describe it? I mean, yeah, to me, like, I don't know. There's obviously tradition that it still has an involvement in government. I'm not super clued up on this stuff, but for the large point, and then people love the royals, and I think like it is something in like the hundreds of millions that it brings in terms of revenue pounds to the UK. So everybody wants to see it, right? Because everybody associates, the sort of like this beautiful almost Disney like fairy tale is associated with all of that world. It's one of the last sort of symbols of the past, I guess.
I would say so. I mean, you think about just the fantasy and just what that does as far as just kings, queens, knights in shining armor, castles, and how cool. I mean, that's like on a like cool story level, adventure level. That's some cool shit.
Yep.
I remember as a kid, first time seeing a knight in armor, I'm like, oh my god, it's so badass. And to this day, I'll still watch videos of like, dudes doing competitions in armor and how like how flexible and badass they can do stuff in the armor.
There's a place, Bodiam Castle, I believe. Right, may not want to quote me on that one, but anyway, it's about 2 hours away from here. But I've got a friend who competes in those, so the medieval fight reenactments. So yeah,
Nice.
he gets on a suit of armor, the blunted blades, and he just goes and whacks the shit and the shit out of each other. Can we swear on this, by the way?
Fuck yeah.
Okay, sweet, yeah. But yeah, he goes and he whacks the shit out of each other, and then he gets put on free mead for him, and then whenever I see him, he's just covered fucking black and blue, this stuff.
Wow.
So yeah, great pastime.
Damn.
Absolutely.
Oh
We'll
yeah.
come over and we'll put you in a suit of armor, mate, and get you in a reenactment.
I'd be down for sure. For sure.
Sweet.
As long as you give me a guy in my weight class, I'm all about it. No, fuck that. Give me a big dude so I can just like move all around.
Give me a bigger sword, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in trouble at that point, man. But yeah, no, it's funny, the whole thing. Like, what's the basis of like a royal family is like they were decreed by God, right? I think that's how it starts, where like my bloodline was decreed by God or whoever, right?
Yeah.
That's always, yeah. And then, It's a good thing they don't do prima nocta anymore, because I mean, there would be a lot of fucking pissed off dudes.
I think the concept, like even the US, like when we went over there, right? And because if you go and you want to look up, because this is like, I'm not super savvy, so don't quote me on this, but for if you're a native Indian American, right, and you want to look at the land records of anything, then it will only go so far back to the date of divine providence.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is like, we're allowed to be here. This is ours because God said it is.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
like,
Oh yeah. No,
yeah.
I mean, it's that's the funny thing about using God as your reason for, or your excuse to do things. When you're like, yeah, well, because God said I could. And it's like, oh, really?
I mean, it's like it's like wow, like, and that stands up in like a legal system in the court. It's like, okay, and that flies from back then. That boggles my brain.
Oh man, it's just so fucking hilarious. And the thing, it's just, I sometimes like play this like thought experiment in my mind where I was like, all right, so what if like the Native Americans were more technologically advanced than like the Europeans were at that same time, and like the reverse happened, where all the Native Americans went over to Europe.
That would actually make for one of those great series, like a Man in the High Castle,
It
right?
would.
Yeah, like if Nazi Germany was still around. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like this conversation would be like, so yes, I was raised on a reservation. My tribe
exactly.
was subjugated by the American.
My name is Wolfgang Sitting Bull.
That would be, I'm sure there's got to be like an alternate reality, some alternate universe where just world history just went that way.
How much DMT do we have to smoke in order to get there?
You know what, buddy? We're gonna have to smoke a lot. Have you smoked DMT?
I haven't. I know so many people that have. I feel like I'm missing out on this stuff.
Same. I haven't smoked DMT. The strongest one I've done is ayahuasca. That was years ago, about 6 years ago, when ayahuasca ceremony. That's got DMT in it. And,
yeah.
Psychedelics, man. Do you enjoy psychedelics?
I haven't for a long time, but like I am partial. I'm open-minded to these kind of experiences. The last time that I did anything was in New Zealand. I was doing a fair amount of LSD. And it's crazy as it sounds, and I don't endorse this. As a young stupid guy, I used to love to drive on it.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, pulsing road signs, and just like clouds and music coming at me. It's beautiful. But I remember one time I took a lot, and I had this experience that I closed my eyes and I was in the middle of this tropical rainforest. I was like guided by a piece of light down into like this bottom of this waterfall. And I was laid there like this, and then there were figures stood at the corner around me, and they like outstretched their arms like tendrils and put it into me, and then I pulled out all this stuff, and they were talking to me.
What?
Yeah. And then they returned me back to where I was. And I remember I woke up and I had this feeling of like, I don't know, the feeling that what's the feeling like when you're around somebody that you're a little bit scared of, but you feel like that this person's important?
Yeah.
I had that feeling that was left with me.
Wow. A feeling of awe.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. So I don't know, that was the one and only time I'd had an experience like that.
Wow.
While doing it. I had a buddy who took belladonna, and then he did it. It was intense, and then it was 3 weeks later. He was walking. Yeah, exactly. 3 weeks later. 3 weeks later, he was walking around the supermarket, around a Sainsbury's, which is like your guys' Walmart. And anyway, he just broke down crying because he looked at a box of cereal and he turned around and everyone's face was like a lizard. Like out of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Yeah, it's like he turned around and everyone was a lizard, and yeah, it was so overwhelming, and it lasted for about 5 minutes. And his partner at the time is like finding him inconsolable. gets him back in the car, and he's like, I have no idea what. He's never touched anything since.
Holy shit, belladonna,
Yeah,
dude. I didn't even know that would do that to you. That would
yeah,
suck.
yeah. Like witches brew, like
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
old thing. But yeah,
Oh, I would super suck to take something and be like, well, it's gonna hit me later. I don't know when, but all
yeah,
right.
yeah. I don't know. I kind of wanted to see the lizard people.
You want to see some lizard people?
I
All right.
wanted to see the lizard people. Yeah, you feel like I missed out.
Dude, I would love to I would love to get a bunch of us together, like all the sales homies, right? And like do like this, like get this like retreat together and
Yeah.
like have just like an ayahuasca ceremony one day, another psychedelic and another day, and just like have all these different experiences and just like be like, all right, dudes, like how weird is it gonna get?
I think like it's not far from the idea actually. Like I won't say who, but there is like a men's group specifically that targets this that does do things like that. I think there would be a demand for it, bro. I reckon if you put
Dude,
it out there.
well, since you bring up men's group, I'm glad you just reminded me of something. So rites of passage, especially for men, rites of passage, especially for young men, right? Back in our tribal days,
Mm.
right? All of us came from some type of tribe, right? Like you got the Celts and and the Iberians and the Goths and the Vandals, just all these different tribes. Like even the Romans before they became the fucking toga wearing Romans, right? And all these groups, they had their shaman, their medicine man,
Yeah.
medicine woman, right? And there was always some type of rite of passage for the youth. Usually for girls, it was basically when they had their first moon, when they were like, okay, you are ready to bring in life into the world. And now we're going to, and, the older women would take them in.
Yep.
For the boys, it was, going on their first hunt, preparing them also for fucking war.
I'm glad you brought this up, actually. Yeah.
So I wanted to, so part of, because here's the other thing, right? I think part of what we did at 17 was a rite of passage because of the lack of rite of passage that exists, right? So I want to get your thoughts on this.
Well, like again, a little bit of tangent. Turns out I love those. Who would have thought? Like now working and like still doing a bit of sales, but like doing coaching specifically for men's health, men's physical, men's mental health, right? Like I talk to so many blokes every single day who feel like they haven't shed an element of part of them, like they hold on to some sort of childhood mechanism that is affecting their relationships as they get older, and it hinders their ability to grow at the pace that they really want to or connect with other people. And I'm no Freudian, but we go back and then usually, yeah, we can arrive at a common destination. And so one of the things I always get them to do is a kind of their own rite of passage, which is like a severing of ties with who they were to embrace like who they can become, right? And I think like on a deep psychological level, there needs to be that sort of that death of the ego, because otherwise it's just like carrying around a boulder with you. And I think like, yeah, in today's world, it's not there. You have institutions like the military that can provide something very similar to it, but besides that, where else do you get it? And again, nobody's given us a textbook coming into life about it, but this is something that's ingrained genetically in us through our DNA that we've been doing for thousands of years, like even before that, when we were cavemen, like when you remove that, which is one of the many integral pieces of our human experience, and we wonder why so many men are depressed or anxious or feeling a lack of purpose, because they haven't been given the opportunity to have a full human experience.
100%. There's something that you and I do all the time, and that's training.
Yep.
That taps into that part of us, of our masculinity. And I only reference the male I'm only referencing things as a man right now, and for men, because I can't speak to women. I can't speak about what's going on with them and what they need to do for themselves. That is not our place.
Mm.
Our place right now is, as we're talking about this, is for men, by men, that kind of a thing. Because shit, that was a little loud. Because we're fucking men, right? We are men who decided to, all right, go into the warrior class, right? By sign me up, and do our time. And then, you had that experience where you got your ass beat and you got into the strongman training. When I was 12, I got my ass beat with some buddies. We got jumped. That's how I got into martial arts training. And so it becomes this process. And so now that we're older, we're still engaging in this thing that fucking like gets the meat suit going, because it's designed to do that. It wants to do that. Because when you don't do that, like you were saying, you get fucking depressed, and all these weird things happen, and all these fucked up things happen, and all these dangerous things happen. Right.
100%. It's like if you're not, the more capable I've, and I'm sure you'll find this as well, like the more capable I've become physically with my body, the less opportunities I come across where I have to exercise that in my life. But the less, and it's funny because looking back, the less conditioned I was, it's like subconsciously I was putting a target on my own back. So it's like, hey, I'm easy pickings. You can bowl me over. Like being stronger, being capable, knowing a martial art, those are things. It's like you create something that happens inside that projects outwards. It's like suddenly, like people don't want to fuck with you anymore.
Yeah.
So, it's remarkably clear out here. And I think that's a big part of it.
It's a huge part of it. It's that energy that you exude. It's that sense of strength that you already have and possess, and that emanates from you, and people sense that. Just like so, being on a sales call, right? And depending on the type of energy you're bringing, the person on the other end is going to sense that and feel that.
Yep.
And so it's like, we're sensitive, energetic beings. And so like, I wanted to ask you this question about, how do you feel like your overall emotional state is when you're consistently training?
Yeah. How do I feel like my overall state is when consistently training? I mean, I think it goes on a spectrum of somewhere between to overall. I feel calm. It's somewhere between that. Usually, most of the time. But like for now, for example, like I made that switch. It's post training. I just feel relaxed. I feel good. I feel just calmly assured. This is like a bubbling sort of sense of conviction just about myself. Like, hey, I'm somebody who gets things done. I'm somebody who can get things done. I'm the guy who did this. It's like, cool. I'm at peace with that. I'm at peace with me.
I like that calmly assured, bubbly conviction. That's really cool. I see you got a tattoo right there. Is that what do you got there?
So it's more Mr. Snakey. It's actually a new one. Everybody says that, but this is relatively new. I got this done last year when I went to Argentina.
Oh, you got they're like a Nazi, like an old Nazi do it in Argentina.
That would have been cool. There's a dude named, there's a guy covered head to toe in tattoos, Santiago. I remember, went there. The guy did it. And then afterwards, he's like offering me beers, offering me spliffs, offering me steaks.
Damn.
Just a real cool dude. Yeah, just real cool dude, Santi. Yeah,
that's
I
awesome.
liked it.
That's how many? Is that the one you already have more?
I've got one. I've got like a robin on my chest. Yeah. Again,
what's the robin about?
The robin is actually for an ex-girlfriend. I was gonna use the other story that I made up that I'll tell people, but no, that's what that was about.
Hey man, I got one on me from an ex-girlfriend. It's an infinity symbol, right? Like if I were to show it, you'd be looking at my ass crack right now. That's where it's at. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I got one of those. It was right
Yeah.
after the army too, and it's just
Was
like
it?
so in love, and let's get an infinity symbol to symbolize our love. I'm like, you got it, baby.
The things we do, eh? Oy.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I mean, ultimately, it's the way I see it. It's like it's about the story of this life, man.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Like, if you don't got any good stories to tell before you die or on your way to the grave, like, what was the point?
I mean, I just hope that life continues to be as surprising as it has been, you know, for the next foreseeable, as it has been all the way up to this point. Because, you know, at the moment, if there's one thing I've learned, is that the more certain I feel I am about the course that I'm walking, then something comes in and just blows me way off it. And it's always better than I ever imagined. It always takes me in an entirely new direction. And I feel like it always tells me that I need to make peace with the uncertainty. That's been a consistent theme I've noticed in my life, is making peace with uncertain outcomes and controlling the things you can control.
Mm, mm. Beautifully said. We're gonna land the plane on that one. That was fucking great, man. Thank you, man. Yeah, that was awesome. Would you like to come back? I would love to have you back on the show.
Of course, I'd love to come back, bro. Yeah, it was good.
All right.
It was good hanging with you.
Yeah,
it
man, you too. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was great. Ladies and gentlemen, that was episode 16 with Paddy Wolfgang Haynes. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, that was great. Hit the subscribe button wherever it is. Tell your mom, tell your grandma. You know she's gonna love this episode, especially this episode, because we've got a James Bond here.
I will love your grandma as well.
All right, folks, you have a good night. Good luck, and we'll catch you on the flip side.